Today we're going to be working on finding domain and range from a graph. So we've got lots of different options of things here to look at. There's 12 different graphs, and on the other side of your paper is going to be this information where it's giving us, answers for things where it's a matching, but we're going to kind of talk about a few things here first before we look into those answers. So we have to remember again some stuff about domain and range. And so domain, that is going to be the x values. Those are our input values. The x values are the domain, and the range is going to be our y values. And another question that's going to come up here is, if it's a function. So how do we know again with a graph if it's a function or not? Well, in general, function means that no x values can repeat. So no x values repeat. What does that look like on a graph, though? So that means that it needs to pass the vertical line test. So remember, if we were to take and create vertical lines across this, whether we're doing it, just sliding your pencil across or things like that, if it touches the graph more than once, then it's not a function. Okay, so that's going to be part of this. So let's go through really quick on all of these. Take just a quick moment here, and I want you to put a Y or an N in the upper corner of each one of these. It doesn't really matter which corner you're putting it in. Just say yes, it's a function, or no, it's not, because that's going to be a question that's asked of us. So if we're looking here at letter A, we would put a Y, because that is a function. Letter B passes, so it's a yes. Letter C, if we make that vertical line there, it would fail, so we're going to put a no. N for no. D, if we're looking at vertical line test, that would be no. E, creating vertical lines, would not pass. F, vertical line test, we would say yes. G is a yes. H is a yes. I is a yes. J is a no. K is a yes. And L is a yes. All right, so those are going to be part of what's happening with our matching section on the other side of your paper. The other part is finding domain and range from the graph. So we're trying to restrict what the domain and we're going to try and figure out what the domain is restricted to and what the range is restricted to, if they are restricted in different ways. And we're going to use this by using inequalities to find the domain and range of these different things. So we're going to kind of jump around a little bit throughout these questions. Another thing I want you to notice on some of these, some of them have open circles and some of them have closed circles. Some of them have arrows. Some of them, kind of have a combination of those different things as you're going throughout. So an open circle is going to mean that it's not included in that domain or range value of things. A closed circle or a continuous circle or arrows are going to mean that it's included. Okay, so open circles are the only thing we really need to look at. So let's look here at number 1. And for domain, so we'll do a couple of these this way. So I guess I should say letter A here. We're going to find domain and range for that. And we're using inequalities to do this as we go. So if we're looking here, the farthest left x value here, this point has an x coordinate of -6. So this is -6 here. And all of these are closed dots. It doesn't matter that it goes up or down, things like that. All the way over here, we have +6. So everything from -6 to +6 is taken care of. So we would write our domain as -6 is less than or equal to, since it's got closed dots throughout, x is less than or equal to +6, because everything's contained within those values. And then we're going to do the same thing for the range, for the y values here. So if we're looking, here's the lowest y value, and that y value is going to be 0. And going all the way up, this is the highest y value that we have, and that y value is 6. And everything's contained within that, so we're going to be from 0 is less than or equal to y is less than or equal to 6. So we know that these are our domain, these are our range, and we said that it's a function. So if we're looking at the front side of our paper, we need those 3 things to happen. So do you see where that happens at all yet? So that's going to happen here for number 5. So we're going to put a capital A there. It has the domain, the range, and the function, that it is a function exactly the way that we need it to. Okay? So let's go to something like letter B. We'll just move over here. So for letter B, we're doing the same thing. We need domain and we need range. Domain is the x's. So if you're looking at this, the farthest left x point that we have here is a -7. And going over to the right, the farthest right x value that we have is 5. Now, if you notice here, it's a continuous line in between here, but this is a closed circle, this is an open circle. Well, when we had open or closed circles before, we kind of talked about that briefly up here, our domain would be from -7, because we're going from the smallest thing. It is going to be less than or equal to, because it's a closed circle, x. Here we have less than. Do we need to fill that equal to piece in? And the answer is no, because it's open there. So we're going to be less than 5. We're going to do the same thing with our y. So I'm going to use different colors here. You can kind of decide what you want. So here is our lowest point, and our lowest point there has a y value of -3. And our highest point has a y value of 1. So we're going to go from -3 is less than or equal to y is less than 1. Again, it's a closed dot on the left and open dot on the right, so you cannot put the equal to piece with the 5 or the 1. Alright, so now that we have all of that information, we're going to put that together and choose something from the front of our paper. So we're going to flip over here. So obviously we're looking only at the ones that say yes. We can eliminate all the ones that say no. And the one that has the same information there is going to be number 10. So we're going to put a letter B there. All right, let's take a look at, we'll go to letter C next. So how does that one look a little bit different than what we've seen so far? So 1, it's a vertical line, and 2, it's got open circles on both sides. So domain and range. All right, so domain is the x's. Well, what do you notice about this line? All of the x's have that exact same x value of -5. So when they're all the exact same, you're going to say x equals that number. Every single x value is a -5. Let's look at the range. Here we don't have the same range value, so we're going to go from least to greatest. That means we're looking bottom to top. So this y value is -2. And the top one here has a y value of 6. Now they're both open circles, so we would have -2 is less than y is less than 6. This is range, so it's y's. This is domain, so it's x's. And it's going to keep going like that. Okay, so let's take a look here on the other side. Where do we have that same information? that's going to have him with number 6. So we're going to put C there. Okay. All right, let's go to F. So I'm going to slide this over here. We're going to come to letter F. So we need domain and we need range. So again, we're looking at the x's. The smallest x that we have is 0. And the highest x that we have, this arrow means that it's going to keep going on forever and ever. It means that the highest x we actually have is infinity. Now, when you have infinity on one side of this, we're going to write our domain a little bit different. We're not going to put 0 is less than x is less than infinity. When you have infinity on one side, you're only going to put the variable and the number that you got, okay, the actual number that we can reach, and we're going to put the proper inequality symbol in there. So all of these numbers are getting bigger than that 0, so we're going to say greater than. Can we have the greater than or equal to symbol? That's an open dot, so no, it's just going to be x is greater than 0. Okay, so let's move on to our range then. All of these have the same range value, all of these have the same y value, and that is 4. Okay, all the way across that they have 4. So we're going to have y equals 4. So looking at that, for letter F, we are going to come up with number 4 on the other side. Okay, let's take a look at one more here, and then we'll kind of see how we're doing. So let's look down here at letter L. Okay, this is one that has arrows on both sides of it. So for letter L, we need domain and we need range. Okay, so what's the smallest x value? As we're going this way, remember this graph is going to keep going on forever and ever down this way, but over to the left, we have negative infinity over here. That's our farthest left x value. And going all the way over to the right, since this is going to keep continuing, the x value would be positive infinity. If you have infinity on both sides of this, we are going to say all real numbers. Okay, if it involves literally every single number that you could imagine is there, then it's all real numbers. So the same thing we're going to look at for the range. Here's our bottom, the lowest y value is going to keep going down this way, which means we have negative infinity. And the highest y value going up this direction is going to be positive infinity because of the arrows. So again, we're going to have all real numbers. And so what that means, looking at the other side of this, we need all real numbers for both of them, domain and range, and it is a function, so letter L will go here for number 9. Okay, so using those 5 examples, we should be able to look at, other situations that we might be in for these different things to find domain and range, and if something's a function from the graph. So again, domain is the x's. You're working left to right, smallest to biggest. Okay, and range, you're looking at the y values from the bottom of the graph to the top of the graph. If you only have one x or y value, then you're just going to say x equals like we did here, or y equals. If you have infinity on one side like we did here with letter F, that means that you're going to put just x or y in that number, and then the inequality symbol that goes in there. Okay?